Beginning, the queen who ruled through fear. For 3 centuries, Queen Zyraval had ruled the Velthari dominion without ever needing to raise her voice. She didn't have to. Her presence alone was enough. The Velthari were a warrior species. Tall, silver-skinned beings with bioluminescent eyes and elongated crests that flared when angered. Their culture was forged in conquest. Empires fell not because the Velthari were cruel, but because they were inevitable. Every neighboring civilization knew the truth. Resistance only delayed absorption. And at the heart of that unstoppable force sat Queen Zyraval. She was not born royal. Velthari queens were chosen, not inherited. Strength, intelligence, emotional control. These traits were measured brutally. Zyraval had survived every trial. She had defeated rivals twice her size and commanders twice her age. By the time she ascended the obsidian throne, she had already lost everything soft inside herself. That was why she was perfect. So when the human delegation arrived on Velth Prime, the queen expected fear. She expected trembling voices, careful words, and gifts crafted from precious metals meant to impress or placate. That was how lesser species behaved when standing before her. She did not expect a human named Aaron Hale. He was ordinary. No ornate armor. No ceremonial weapons. Just a simple dark uniform, worn boots, and eyes that didn't avert themselves when she looked directly at him. That alone unsettled her. The grand audience chamber was vast. Black stone floors polished to a mirror sheen, towering spires etched with the history of Velthari conquest. Human delegates stood stiffly beneath the vaulted ceiling, dwarfed by Velthari guards. Aaron stood among them, hands clasped calmly behind his back. Queen Zyraval leaned forward slightly on her throne, crest glowing faintly. "You may speak," she said, her voice echoing like distant thunder. "Explain why humanity seeks audience rather than submission." The human ambassador began his rehearsed speech. Trade routes, coexistence, shared threats, but Zyraval barely listened. Her attention remained fixed on Aaron. He was watching her. Not with hunger. Not with fear. With curiosity. That was mistake number 1. When the ambassador finished, Zyraval raised a single clawed finger. Silence fell instantly. "You bring tribute?" she asked. "Yes, your radiance," the ambassador said quickly. "A symbol of peace." Servants stepped forward carrying crystalline cases, rare earth minerals, data cores, artistic holograms. Impressive. Predictable. Zyraval dismissed them with a flick of her wrist. Then Aaron stepped forward. The chamber stirred. The ambassador hissed under his breath. "Hale, don't." Aaron ignored him. He reached into his coat and removed a small object, no larger than his palm. No glow. No energy signature. Just simple. "I brought a gift," Aaron said, voice steady. "Not from humanity. From me." A murmur rippled through the Velthari court. Queen Zyraval's eyes narrowed. "You presume much," she said. "Do you know what happens to those who presume before me?" Aaron nodded. "Yes. And yet you still stand." "Yes." Something in his tone, quiet, respectful, unyielding, made her pause. "Approach," she commanded. Aaron walked alone across the vast floor. Each step echoed like a heartbeat. Velthari guards shifted, ready to strike if he crossed an invisible boundary. He stopped several paces from the throne and knelt, not in submission but in respect. Then he held out the object. It was a small wooden box. A material so fragile it had no place in Velthari culture. "What is this?" Zyraval asked. "A memory," Aaron replied. "If you choose to open it." She stared at the box. No alarms screamed. No scanners detected weapons or toxins. Still, something about it made her chest tighten. Slowly, she extended a claw and opened it. Inside lay a simple thing. A pressed flower, preserved carefully between thin layers of crystal. Blue petals, slightly translucent, with a faint iridescence. The chamber went utterly silent. Zaravel froze. Her breath caught. She knew that flower. It grew only in one place in the entire galaxy. On Velth Prime's southern continent. A fragile plant that bloomed for a single day every 10 cycles, then died. It was called thyrolin, and it had been extinct for over 100 years. How? She whispered. Aaron lowered his hand. Your people recorded its extinction during the purge of the southern reaches. But some seeds survived in deep soil vaults. Human botanists found them while surveying uninhabited regions. Her claws trembled. That flower, she said slowly, was the first living thing I was taught to destroy. Aaron swallowed. On Earth, we teach our children to protect what's rare. Queen Zyraval could not speak. For the first time since her ascension, the Queen of the Velthari Dominion sat speechless before a human. Middle. The meaning of a gift. The audience ended in chaos. Velthari nobles whispered urgently. Commanders argued in low, furious tones. The human delegation was escorted out under heavy guard, unsure whether they would be honored or executed. Queen Zyraval dismissed them all. Alone in her private chamber, she stared at the flower. Memories surfaced, unwanted and sharp. She remembered being young, standing in a field of thyrolin blooms under a copper sky. She remembered her instructor placing a blade in her hand and telling her mercy was weakness. She remembered the flames. She closed her eyes. Why would a human bring this? Why not power? Why not technology? Why something that hurt to remember? She summoned Aaron Hale that night. Not to the throne room, but to her private observatory. He arrived under guard, fully expecting death. Instead, he found the Queen standing before a massive window overlooking Velth Prime's oceans. Unarmored. Vulnerable. You knew what this was, she said without turning. Yes, Aaron replied. You knew it would wound me. I hoped it would remind you, he said gently. Not of loss. Of choice. She turned then, eyes glowing softly. Why? She demanded. Why give pain to a ruler who could erase your species with a word? Aaron met her gaze. Because you're not just a ruler, he said. You're a person who once stood in a field and felt something worth remembering. Silence stretched. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Over the following cycles, Aaron was not imprisoned. Nor was he freed. He was invited. They spoke often, about humanity's mistakes, about Velthari conquests, about what strength meant when survival was no longer the only goal. Zyraval learned something dangerous. Humans did not conquer the galaxy because they were the strongest. They survived because they remembered why strength mattered. She began to question her own empire. That questioning did not go unnoticed. The Velthari High Command grew restless. The Queen was changing. She delayed campaigns. She spared border worlds. She ordered ecological preservation where scorched planets had once been doctrine. And at the center of it all stood a human with no weapon but words. When the assassination attempt came, it was swift. During a ceremonial transit, a command cruiser opened fire on the Queen's vessel. Explosions tore through the hull. Alarms screamed. Aaron was thrown across the chamber, bloodied but alive. Zyraval shielded him with her own body, taking shrapnel meant for him. As emergency systems stabilized the ship, she looked down at him. Why did you come back? She asked hoarsely. You could have fled. Erin coughed. Someone had to protect the person who protected a flower. She laughed, a sound no Velthari had heard in centuries. Coup failed. Its leaders were arrested, not executed. That alone shook the Dominion to its core. Ending. The silence that changed the galaxy. The conclave of species had never seen a Velthari queen arrive without an honor guard. Zyraval arrived with one human. When she stepped before the gathered delegates, ancient beings, warlords, artificial intelligences, every voice fell silent. I was taught that mercy ends empires, she said. That memory is weakness. She held up the preserved Thyrolan flower. A human reminded me that forgetting is what truly destroys us. She announced reforms that day. An end to forced conquest. A transition to alliance. A future where strength served life, not erased it. Many resisted, but none could deny her authority. Years later, on a quiet terrace overlooking restored Thyrolan fields, Erin stood beside Zyraval as the flowers bloomed once more. You changed everything, he said softly. She shook her head. No, she replied. You gave me something no one else ever had. What's that? She looked out over her world, no longer ruled by fear. A reason to listen. And once again the queen was speechless, not from shock but from peace.